Hello and welcome back to Offroad Outlaws, y'all, and in this video, we're going to be doing something that we haven't done in quite a while, and that is going over some vehicles that I would love to see in the next Offroad Outlaws update, and also talking about some vehicles that I've seen floating around in the Offroad Outlaws community a lot. And if there's anything on this list of vehicles that I did not discuss, make sure you leave them in the comments down below. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into our first vehicle, with the first vehicle on my wish list being the Toyota Tacoma. Now, the reason why I'm specifically talking about what is essentially the previous generation or the newest up to the recording of this video is because we know there's a new Tacoma coming in the real world in the near future. We just haven't seen it yet as of the date of recording this video, although if you're watching this video a little bit later on down the road, who knows, the next Tacoma might have been revealed by that time. Nevertheless, this is a vehicle that I would love to see in Offroad Outlaws, and considering the fact that we're driving a Tundra in-game right now, I think the Tundra being in-game definitely proves the potential that a Tacoma in-game would also have, especially considering that it's a smaller truck than the Tundra. It's also a more readily modified truck. There's a lot more Tacomas out on the trail than Tundras, mainly because the Tacoma is a lot smaller, it's a lot lighter, and it's a lot easier to squeeze between obstacles, but it's also a truck that has an even bigger aftermarket following than the Tundra does. So I would personally love to see a Tacoma of basically any generation, but especially a newer Tacoma, come to Offroad Outlaws in a future update. I think that would be sick. Another truck I would love to see in Offroad Outlaws in the future would be a Ford OBS. Now, some people say, well, the Ford OBS is already in the game, and I'm aware that this is not a real photo. This is a photo from SnowRunner, but I have to say I felt like this particular SnowRunner screenshot was a great way to represent how I would love to build a Ford OBS in Offroad Outlaws. Now, the OBS sort of, I use air quotes here, the sort of OBS that is in Offroad Outlaws right now kind of looks like half of an OBS, half of a Ranger, and then in the back it looks like a square body. It's very, it's kind of like a hodgepodge of parts, and you can't really figure what it is. It's also a lot smaller of a truck, and therefore it looks a little bit closer to a kind of the generation of the square body style Ranger than it does like an OBS. So I'm kind of back and forth on whether or not that was even supposed to be an OBS in the first place, but either or, I would love to see an OBS Ford in Offroad Outlaws in the future, and I think it would really fit into the game super nicely. Another vehicle that I think would make so much sense in Offroad Outlaws is a four-door JK or JL Wrangler. Now, if it was a JL Wrangler and they decided to do a four-door, I would love for them to just kind of go all the way and allow us to build it into a 392. Now, obviously, since in the real world, the 392 Wrangler is mainly an engine package on top of the existing Rubicon, obviously, I know there are more changes other than just the engine, of course, but in-game, you wouldn't really necessarily feel those differences. Like, you would be able to add those differences as part of the build of the vehicle, and if you wanted to add the little 392 touches visually within Offroad Outlaws, probably in the design editor, you could totally do that if you know, were tricky enough and creative enough within the design editor, because there are some people that can go absolutely bonkers with the Offroad Outlaws design editor. But back to why I think we need a four-door Wrangler in the game. Well, currently, the only newer Jeep we have in Offroad Outlaws is a two-door JK. Now, the two-door JK is a really cool rig, don't get me wrong, but it was one of the original rigs, and it hasn't gotten a revamp in a really long time, and I think one of the best ways to reach back out to the Jeep community in Offroad Outlaws, or at least like the Jeep fan base or the Jeep side of the Offroad Outlaws community, would be to do a four-door Wrangler that has all the new optimizations that a lot of the newer vehicles have, and of course allows you to turn it into a full-on crawler or trail rig if you want, that just so happens to be able to fit all your friends, because there's a lot of people that prefer the four-door Wranglers over the two-door. That's not to say that they're better or more capable, that just means a lot of people prefer having the options and the versatility of the four-door Jeeps, and so I think having them in the game would be really, really nice. Next up, I would love to see them do another third-gen Dodge with more customization, but as a four-door. Now, I know some of you are going to say, well, they do already have a 5th gen body style Ram in Offroad Outlaws, and I'm like, yes, I get that. However, the 5th gen they have in the game right now is based off of the 1500 and the TRX, and not the 2500 and 3500, and I think a lot of people that play Offroad Outlaws are really interested in the 2500 and 3500 range of trucks, specifically because those are the trucks that pull a lot of these off-road rigs to the rock crawling course, or to the mud pit, or to like to the Baja track, or whatever the case may be. You know, a lot of these 3/4 ton, 1 ton trucks are what pull people's trailers and get their fun rigs out to the trails and rock gardens where they actually go to enjoy them. And so I think having a 3rd gen 4-door dually would be essentially one of the biggest, that would be one of the biggest trucks, and not in size, but just in overall reception. I think people would be so over the moon if that truck dropped in Offroad Outlaws. If the Offroad Outlaws devs were like, here you go, we made you a 4-door dually 3rd gen Cummins. Literally, the Offroad Outlaws community would be like, okay, we're all getting one, and we're all building a custom version of, like, probably 3 or 4 different ones. You know what I mean? Because that's, like, I feel like it's such an iconic truck and such an iconic configuration of that truck for it to not be in the game already. Now, this next truck that I would like to see added to Offroad Outlaws, some of y'all might get mad. Some of y'all might get mad, and some of y'all might be like, why would you add that? Or you might call it ugly, you might say it's this, that, and the other thing. I can assure you, it looks better in person than it does in pictures. I have seen one of these on the road, and it looks spectacular in person. In person, these trucks are so wide, the stance is incredible. Either way, I would actually like to see the new 2023 GMC Canyon AT4X come to Offroad Outlaws. I think that would be insane. And while I'm sure there are lots of you rushing to the comments to tell me, no, it's hideous, it's ugly, don't bring it anywhere near Offroad Outlaws, I promise you, once these trucks start to become more common and more of y'all start seeing them out there on the road, I think more people are gonna actually like them. Now, granted, if you see it in person and you still go, nope, yeah, that's still ugly, then that's entirely up to you. Like, looks and liking the way a vehicle looks is 100% subjective. It's 100% up to you. Like, it, you know, it's in, what do they say, in the eye of the beholder, I suppose. But either way, I really am a fan of the way they not only set that truck up, but like the looks of it when you see it on the road. I know I keep going back to this, but I literally saw one on the road the other day, and I just smashed my hand into my desk. I don't know why I did that, but I did. Maybe because I'm so animated talking about this. Either way, that truck almost entirely fills up a lane. And it's not a Silverado. It's not a 1500. This is a Canyon we're talking about. This is a small truck. But that AT4 is so wide that it just about fills up the entire lane from yellow line to white line. And I'm thinking to myself, the center of gravity of that truck off-road must be incredible, you know? But enough about that. We have now come to the point of the video where I want to talk about the vehicles that y'all think I may have either missed or not have mentioned. Now, the reason why I want to go really in depth in the comment section about this with y'all is because I really want to know if there are more vehicles than the ones that we just mentioned that y'all really desperately want, or if the vehicles that y'all want in particular are different versions of the ones the game already has. Like, for example, allowing us to have a, you know, a 4-door 3rd gen as opposed to a 2-door 3rd gen, or if there are just more trucks out there that y'all are genuinely interested in having added to the game. Now, I know that for the longest time, there are also a lot of people talking about semis, and I avoided bringing up semis for a couple of very specific reasons. One, because I feel like semis, especially when you combine the truck and the trailer and everything that goes along with it, they would probably use a lot of resources, and when you're trying to make a game like Offroad Outlaws run smoothly on a wide variety of different mobile mobile devices, a semi-truck might be really, really, really taxing to that. I'm not saying that it's a bad idea. I think they would be really cool to have in the game, but at the same time, I have a feeling that overall the game would probably be a little bit better with more pickup trucks, general off-roaders, things like that, and a couple of other refinements to the trucks that we have already. Now, another sort of honorable mention that I didn't bring up as a main part of my list is, and primarily because I feel like it's one of those vehicles where if you even bring it up, it's kind of, ooh, controversial, but it's, so, the Hummer EV. Now, before you click away, I know that I know that some people are going to click away now that I've said Hummer EV, and because I'm not the biggest fan of the Hummer EV either, but I think it would be kind of neat if the only electric truck in the game, the Cybertruck, had sort of a counterpart. I mean, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Like, at the very least, it would give the Cybertruck a counterpart, if nothing else. And who knows? It, you know, visually, I think the Hummer EV looks kind of cool. Regardless of your opinions about its powertrain, I think it's cool looking. Now, unfortunately, it seems that in real-world owner experiences, or at least some of the ones that I've seen online, apparently they're not quite as reliable and durable as people maybe thought they were going to be, and they're a little tricky to position off-road because of how big and heavy they are, but nevertheless, I feel like they might be a decent addition to Offroad Outlaws. We'll have to wait and see on that, though. But with all that being said and done, leave any of your thoughts, opinions, and or suggestions in the comment section down below. I read all of the comments, and I will see y'all in the next one. Talk to y'all later, and hope y'all enjoyed.